Ever struggled to get that perfect seam allowance or consistent measurement on your sewing projects? Whether you're a beginner just starting out or a seasoned pro looking to refine your craft, today's tool might just be your go-to for precision, the seam gauge. Hi, I'm Christina, and I love to digitally apparel pattern, creating unique pieces of wearable art. And you need a variety of different sewing tools to help get each of these garments to come to life. And today, we're talking about this fun seam gauge. So if you've ever wanted a faster, more reliable way to measure seam allowances while sitting at your sewing machine, this tool is a total game changer. The seam gauge is compact, easy to use, and designed to help you make your sewing more accurate without the fuss. But here's the big question. Does it really live up to the hype? And what makes it stand out from the rest? In this video, we're taking a closer look at the details, showing you how it works and helping you decide if it's worth adding to your toolkit. So let's dive on in. Let's start off with a quick look about what makes this seam gauge unique. First off, it's made from high quality aluminum, which means it's durable, rust resistant, and won't warp if set too close to the iron or the iron goes over it. This is especially important if you're sewing frequently or working in different environments. You need a tool that can handle it all. One of my favorite things is that it is dual-sided. One side is inches and the other side is centimeters for those who work with different units or want the flexibility when measuring. Plus, the sliding part of the gauge moves smoothly across the ruler so you can easily adjust and get accurate measurements for any part of your project. This can be easily set to any length you want, and then you don't always have to refine that exact number to ensure the same length of maybe, let's say, a hem every single time. The seam gauge is designed to be lightweight and portable, measuring only 6 inches long, making it easy to carry around or store without taking up much space. So whether you're sewing at home, in a class, or on the go, this gauge is small enough to take with you everywhere. So let's dive into some practical uses for the seam gauge, starting with measuring seam allowances. One of the biggest benefits of a seam gauge is how quickly and accurately you can set up your seam lines. Simply slide the gauge to your desired measurement and then run along the fabric's edge to mark or verify your seam allowance. This is especially handy if you want to keep a consistent seam width throughout your entire project. Another great use is for when you're doing alterations. If you have pinned an adjustment on a garment, the seam gauge can act as a small ruler, allowing you to jot down the exact measurements before removing the pins and turning the garment inside out and making those changes with confidence that everything will still stay aligned and you have the correct measurement to change. You can also use the seam gauge to mark buttonhole spacing. You can adjust it to the exact space you need between buttons. It's not as easy as using, say, a button spreader. However, it can be a very useful tool for setting buttons that are placed close together like jacket sleeve buttons. This takes the guesswork out of the buttonhole spacing, helping you keep everything even and aligned without the hassle. For those who create or modify their own patterns, the gauge can also work for adding seam allowances directly onto your patterns. Just set the gauge to your desired seam allowance and mark the edges. There are other tools that are more effective and efficient when helping you add seam allowances to your patterns, but if you only have a seam gauge, this can also easily help you achieve that. Some seam gauges even have these fun little point turners on them that can be a super useful tool to have when you are needing to clip those corners and turn them right side out and get them really nice and crisp. So, and one quick tip I want to say is you want to make sure you keep your seam gauge clean and free of debris. That way it will slide easily whether you're using the gauge or whether you're working around your pattern, and you don't want it to catch on anything. So we're next going to break down some of the pros and cons of using a seam gauge. First, the aluminum build is a major plus. The gauge is durable. It can still bend and break, and you can see mine's a little bent right here, but it is still a very sturdy measuring tool. It is also rust resistant, which is fantastic for people who sew and iron frequently. And the dual measurement scale is another highlight. Having both inches and centimeters on either side makes it a very versatile tool. The sliding function is a super handy for quick and accurate adjustments, so you can mark it and then technically forget it. And let's not forget how compact and lightweight it is to fit into any of your toolkits. Next, we're going to have to move on to the cons. So if I had to mention a downside, it would be that it is only 6 inches in length. When this is perfect for very small to medium alterations, it might be limiting for larger projects and extensions, like buttons or needing if you're doing something very large or long. But overall, it is designed to be a small measuring tool for at your fingertips at your sewing machine. So who is this seam gauge really for? In my opinion, it is a must-have for anyone who sews regularly. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, its accuracy, portability, and durability make it an invaluable addition to any sewing kit, especially for those who work on detailed projects or alterations commonly. For beginners, it is a tool that is easy to understand and makes sewing tasks faster and more enjoyable. For experienced sewers, it's a reliable standby that won't let you down. Overall, I definitely recommend this type of a seam gauge for its quality, versatility, and ease of use. If you are serious about sewing, this tool is worth considering and just makes everything a little bit easier right next to your sewing machine. All right, that wraps up our review of the seam gauge. Have you used a seam gauge before, or are you thinking of adding one to your toolkit after seeing this? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and any tips you might have while using your seam gauge. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can make sure to check out other sewing tool reviews, other digital pattern drafting, and some sew-alongs. And we're gonna have some fun. So I look forward to seeing you in some of my other videos. Happy sewing!